Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. This Bridgewater Town Council TIF Ad Hoc Oversight Committee for 60 to 86 Broad Street meeting will come to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of our last meeting's minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Great. And our next item on the agenda will be the public comment period. I know some people are having an issue on Zoom raising their hand, so feel free to just unmute yourself, or if you haven't muted yourself. I don't know if we have anybody joining us, Debbie.
There's a few people joining.
Okay, I'll give it a second. I'll maybe open it up to people that we have in person, if anyone has any public comment that they wanted to make at this time.
Bob Cormer, 65 Grange. Just one comment I'll make is I know I'm not on the agenda, so I'll try to be quiet. If the creation of the TIF district is to be referred back to the council to vote, I would just suggest making one edit, which is remove approximately 50. Those two words, approximately 50, in the second whereas. Reason being, number one, that has nothing to do with the creation of the TIF district. That will be addressed in the agreement that will hopefully be put on the agenda for the 12th. It's just irrelevant, and it's not, the first time I presented that was inclusive of the restaurant building at 60, which is not part of this TIF agreement, which I've been very clear on. So just to be accurate, and again, it's irrelevant to the creation of a district, that would be my recommendation if you were to refer it back today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody on Zoom, Debbie, that wants to raise their hand?
No one's raised their hand. There are a few people. If they want to speak, they could.
If you have anything to say, just feel free to unmute yourself or identify yourself.
Guess they don't want to.
No problem. Anybody else in person want to and wish to comment on anything? Okay, great. So with that being said, we'll move into the presentation section, the TIF update from Bob Ruley, our CED director, who's joining us via Zoom. Bob, I have the packet that Debbie just printed off for us, so I'll get this to the committee and then the people that are joining in person.
So thank you for having me. I don't necessarily have a presentation. This is more of a discussion. Just in terms of background, I know that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts refers to these as TIF agreements. I mean, it's a TIF agreement only to the point that it is used for economic catalyst for development. In essence, in any other jurisdiction, this would be a tax stabilization or a tax abatement agreement. So the calculator that I've provided you, both hard copy and then hopefully Debbie will get it to you electronically, is what I've used in the past and what I've built to evaluate a tax stabilization or tax abatement agreement. My feeling is that there are some risk to limiting the district to just a few number of parcels, in as much as we have projects that are in the CBR that have been approved and are coming forward. So my recommendation would be that the TIF district be the entire CBR, in that any project that comes forward that would like to have an agreement, we run it through the calculator that I've provided you. So if you see the electronic version, all of the formulas are built in. This is from a previous project. The example I've given you is based on a 10-year TIF, but what it shows is, you can manipulate the numbers. In this case, the project didn't work on its own, so they needed some type of tax stabilization agreement. But in order to do this effectively, any applicant, any developer is going to have to share the same information with the town that they would with their lenders and their investors. That is the only way that you can get a clear picture of what the economic viability of a project is or isn't. So I'm afraid that if we just look at one parcel, if this was a zoning issue and we were looking at one parcel, that would be spot zoning and it's illegal. So I have that same fear if we just look at one parcel within the CBD. I think in fairness, every project having to run through the calculator is the most equitable way to do it. And it also is giving the most transparency to you as well as the public in terms of a particular project. So we don't just rely on what an applicant tells us. We have to see the same documentations that their lender sees, that their investor sees. That's the only way that we can make an honest evaluation of a project. So we need to see complete pro formas, operating budgets. And if you look at the calculator, it looks at all of those things and it digests it. And then it will tell you, I mean, it asks the question at the very end, does it make it or doesn't make it? If it doesn't pencil out, then you get the false. And if it does, it will come out true. So you can play with that at your leisure. I mean, is then all the formulas are built in there. You can move the numbers around. But if you're asked, I mean, I think we're way early in the game to even think about an agreement when we haven't even seen any numbers.
And I would agree, Bob, I would agree. Do any committee members have questions based on anything that Bob just brought up that you might want to ask right now versus waiting? Lacey, have anything else?
Yeah, just for clarification, what is the reason that we haven't seen more solid numbers yet?
I would defer to Mr. Cormier on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. The guidance that we've been given through the town attorney and the previous town council president is that, like any other legislation, we can't speak to it in this ad hoc committee until the first reading. That's what the guidance that I've been given. So the plan was, like we talked about, gets on the agenda on the 12th, gets referred to this committee, and then all of that information is shared with you. And I can share it tomorrow if you want. That was just the guidance that I was given that we can't. This ad hoc committee was just created.
Mhm.
And then now that it's been created, we need to get legislation on the first reading so it can be referred. I'm happy. If we want to use this template, that's great. We'll start with the operating pro forma that I have, which is all of this information, and we can just plug it into this template and do it live.
Awesome, thank you.
But we need more than just that. I mean, we're going to need, if you've got a commitment letter from a lender, if you have agreements with your investors, we need to see all of that. And staff is available to work with the committee to do that analysis and that evaluation, I mean, as well as the tax assessor.
I have a question.
Sure.
Mr. Rule, I have a question. All during Vision to Reality, you told us that we needed to have developers to pay for our water and sewer infrastructure. So now you want to make it a TIF district where we're giving tax, increments to them all. How does that help with our infrastructure?
Well, first of all, I'm not the one that put forward the request for the TIF district. Let's just be clear about that. And I think there are
opportunities. We make it bigger.
I'm sorry?
You were suggesting that we make it bigger, the district.
Right. And I'm suggesting that every project that comes forward gets evaluated through the calculator. But I also said early on in Vision Reality, the purpose of amending the zoning to create more density was an opportunity to create additional value for property owners in exchange for them giving us a contribution towards water and sewer. So as an example, the Perkins Foundry project has been approved. They are giving us $200,000 in mitigation funds. They are giving us 10% of the units affordable, which they weren't required to do either of those. So I think the biggest opportunity for contributions to water and sewer are associated with Campus Plaza. But at the present time, we do not have capacity to look at more than the potential 3 projects we have before us, that being Perkins, Broad Street, and whatever happens at 106 Hale Street. But a fair question. I mean, I'm not disputing that, but I'm not the one that put forth the TIF district, and I'm not the one asking for it. And, I'm not, as many of you have already accused me, I'm pro-development, but I also have a responsibility to the town to make sure that any agreements we enter into are financially feasible. So I use the example in the beginning on how a normal TIF is done. A municipality would take the increment from what the current taxes were to the future taxes and would borrow against that. So if it was a $20 million increase, they would get a bond for $20 million. you never leverage 100% of what the increment is. You never usually exceed 80%. On average, it's 60 to 80% of what the increment is. Municipalities could do two things with that. They could use that money as equity for a developer to close a gap. Never recommend that because you're not sure the project will ever get built. But more times use that money for public improvements, whether that be a parking garage, water, sewer, roads. We're not in that situation. I mean, that is more in Massachusetts, what we call a DIF. And calling it a TIF, I think, is confusing. As I said, it's a tax stabilization agreement at the end of the day. But I mean, I think it's a case by case basis in terms of, where you have an opportunity to, lean on a developer to ask for a contribution towards infrastructure. In this case, it seems as if the developer is saying they don't have that ability to give you anything extra, which is why they are looking for, abatement on the taxes.
But we kind of won't know until we get the
Right.
financial.
We're a long ways away from, this is not one and done. I mean, we're a long ways away from running this through the calculator and having all the information we need, addressing all the assumptions and presumptions that are in the numbers that we see, and making sure that, we're 100% transparent in terms of you all being in a position to make a decision.
One more question. Have you talked to the developers what bonds they're gonna use? Is it gonna be bonds that are town issues or for like mass development? The state?
I'm not sure what you mean by what bonds they're going to use.
Well, I mean, who's gonna issue the bonds if they use that?
I was giving you an example on what a TIF,
I know, but I was
typical
just wondering,
tax increment
you know,
financing deal looks like. There's no bonds involved in this. These projects are privately funded.
Okay,
Our general contractor will take a bond.
I mean, those are performance bonds but I mean, they're not financing tools.
well, I've been asking, how were they financing? And I haven't gotten an answer. And lots of the developers use bonds. So that's why I was asking.
They use bonds to protect themselves. I mean, bonds are, either they're performance bonds but financing a project is typically on a private side is not done with bonds. If some tax credit deals are, some low income housing tax credits, historic tax credits, that's none of it. This is private financing and equity.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Anyone else have a question?
I have two questions, Bob. First being, if we do open it up to the entire CBD, does that mean that businesses that are renovating or upgrading their buildings would then qualify to at least submit an application? Like, what's sort of, I guess from your standpoint, what's the threshold for somebody to submit an application then if it does open
Yeah, I
up?
think that's something that would come out of your committee in terms of establishing what the parameters were. I mean, what I would suggest is that, you would be looking at new development or substantial rehabilitation or renovation, having a threshold. I mean, this is not, if somebody's going to put $150,000 in a building, I mean, that's not typically what you would see for a TIF. And if you read through the memo that I had done back in April, I mean, there are other components that the state is looking for in order for a TIF, job creation, I mean, what the economic, viability of it is. So I would say that this should be limited to new construction or substantial rehabilitation. I think it's important to keep in mind at the present time that, I've said this many times, we've identified 6 parcels in the CDBR that potentially could be redeveloped. 5 of those have some viability. The technical recycling at the end of Hale Street, we don't know, but Perkins was 1, Broad Street was 2, 106 Hale Street is 3, Campus Plaza. So, I mean, nothing is going to happen beyond these 3 right now. You certainly can amend things moving forward, but I would not, open that up to just any business that wants to do a facade improvement as an example.
Right.
Again, those are just my thoughts and my opinions based on my experience.
Any questions?
Oh, I forgot my second part.
I think the point is like if the evening program requires a new permanent full-time job position created, that would answer your.
Yeah.
The process requires a job component in order to qualify for a TIF. So that's what Mr. Cormier is saying. Bob, one of my questions leans more towards like a bigger scope of what we're looking at on the other side of this once we're working through an agreement. I know that the EACC does not meet regularly. So in order to get the state approval side of things handled, how does that process kind of look? Because I know obviously we're already under a certain level of timing here that
So
project
the
is
state does not, the state has changed their rules that the state does not have to approve anymore. They want to see it, but the approval is given back to the local jurisdiction. The requirements of job creation are still there, but the state no longer is going to be signing off on it. And that's changed within the last few months.
Yeah, I just wanted people to understand that even though time is of the essence, if we can have a little bit more on the local control side of things, that once we decide or not decide what we're going to do here, things can kind of move at a much more rapid pace than other items when we send them off to the State House and they just.
Correct. Yeah, you're going to be able to move it at whatever speed you want to move it at.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I have one more. Now that you brought that up, because Mass Leads Act now is taking over more control, different requirements. And if you watch that presentation in them, they really focus on job retainment and jobs and everything that they've talked about. So you concerned that you guys going to get passed with only, because they have to all be full-time new jobs.
Right. I mean, and again, I mean, they don't have the approval authority anymore, but clearly the requirements for creating new FTEs is part of this. So, I mean, that is a decision that you all are going to have to make as part of your evaluation of any project that comes before you.
Oh, when I watched that presentation, one of the things they said is the quality of job creation. It has to be a high growth potential for the community, and that's in the Mass Leads Act presentation.
Right. No, I mean, again, I don't disagree with you. It's job. I mean, job creation is one of the reasons for the enabling legislation to allow for this. Again, that's your evaluation in terms of whether you think the number of jobs and the quality of jobs is sufficient to meet that threshold.
We have that prepared as well, Mary, the types of jobs, and comparing it to the median income in Bridgewater or full-time jobs.
If you speak up a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So we have that prepared, again, once we can get this agreement on the agenda and talk about it. The types of jobs we anticipate to create, the ones we can count on are related to the management of the building itself. I can't be very specific, obviously, because we don't know who the tenants are, because we don't know how this is gonna go yet, so. But we'll compare it to the median average full-time employee in Bridgewater. There's also some language in there that will obviously give precedent to Bridgewater residents for those positions, so long as they're qualified.
So what do you have? You only have the 3 retail, right?
Correct. And then probably 3 to 5 full-time positions to manage the building.
So if I could, Bob, so the figure of 50 that you're actually looking to strike now.
Yeah.
That's based upon completion and occupancy.
Correct, but it's assuming dry retail, call it neighborhood retail in the 3 spaces. So that's why we have a minimum, the agreement will say a minimum of 20 positions. That we're proposing, we'll say a minimum of 20 positions. Originally it was 50 because it was including the restaurant on 60 Broad Street. That will be phase 2, that will come. But that's assuming just what we call neighborhood retail. That number could potentially be higher. So the language is a minimum of 20 full-time positions as compared to Bridgewater median income per capita.
Do you have any questions for Bob Rulli?
No, sorry.
Anybody else? Well, Bob, I know that you have to get to the planning board meeting, so I'll let you go a little early. I'll give you 10 minutes of your life back. If you'd like it.
I wish it worked that way.
You know, doesn't always work that way, but I do
I
what I
mean, I'm
can.
happy to come back. I mean, the last thing I want to say is I keep hearing an agreement, but I mean, I think that an agreement is not an immediate thing that's going to happen. I mean, I don't see us having to run the numbers accurately through the calculator. I don't see that. I don't see us being near to being able to do that.
And that's completely fair. We definitely want to do our due diligence once we're able to get an agreement in front of us, get numbers, get financials, all of that, and really plug things in and do some serious digging just to make sure that we're acting in the best interest.
Yeah, and again, I mean, my staff and I know that finance department and the assessor, I mean, we're anticipating, working closely with you in order to work through this.
Okay, great.
Is there?
Thanks, everyone.
Not during this, at the end. At the end.
Oh,
At the end.
when Mr. Rule is gone?
It'll be after, when we get to item G, public comment. So it'll be,
Suspend the rules and allow it.
I think if
There you
we,
There you go.
he left. So based on Mr. Rulli being gone, we're gonna move on to item E, items referred, order O FY 25-071, an order establishing a tax incremental financing district for 60 to 86 Broad Street. So we are going to be deciding whether we will or will not be referring this back to council. I think that, and I did some thinking on this both after our last meeting and in the lead up to this meeting. By us deciding to refer this back to council, we in no way are saying that we are granting a TIF district. We are simply stating that we are referring the opportunity to get to a point where we can then start looking at an agreement and seeing if it's feasible, seeing if it's something that will work for the town of Bridgewater, our residents, our community, our business district, all that. So I'm going to open it up for, if we have a motion to refer. Do we have a motion to refer?
I would make a motion to refer.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay, perfect. Discussion, go ahead.
Just ask, just to confirm, if we could confirm the language on here, just to make sure it's up to date. Maybe we'll Mr. Cormier's here.
Yeah.
And if we need to amend, we could amend, make sure when it goes back to the council, it's correct. And particularly, I know you just mentioned the 50 jobs. It does state 50 new permanent full-time jobs in here.
Yeah, we can keep permanent full-time jobs still remaining the 50. It's just, it's irrelevant to creating a TIF district, but just so it's aligned with the agreement that will follow the agreement draft, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I kind of I thought that it did say that in the tip, that you had to have at least 50. So I'd like to look into that. You can take the 50 out, but I think we should look into that, the tip by the state.
Well, I would just amend it to, I think you said 20 was gonna go in the agreement.
I would just take a number. It will be 20 in the agreement, but there's no reason to have a number in the creation of the district.
The 50 just appears in a whereas preamble, so it's really not
It's your call, it's just irrelevant.
an operative part of the order.
I thought we came up with it because it was in Massachusetts when the other department was having it. They had at least 50 new jobs. So I don't mind leaving it out, but I don't want to put a number in there because I'm pretty sure Massachusetts had said at least 50.
Well, I think we could
That's why we
probably
should
just
have it.
strike in the creation of approximately 50 new permanent full-time jobs and just end and add an and over 6,200 square foot of commercial space.
Yeah.
And do more digging on that piece of it because that is part of the agreement. This is simply about a district. It's not the actual agreement and the,
All right, I'm fine with 0. I just rather have no.
I think you should leave it in there. Sorry, my amendment was just that I agree. I don't think we should commit to a number, but I do think it's important information for people to know that there are permanent full-time jobs coming
yeah,
with
that
this.
part, yeah.
So if I could propose that we leave the permanent full-time jobs in there, maybe just remove the 50. I understand this isn't the agreement, but folks are gonna read this and I don't want to give anybody false information. It's just my only concern.
I agree with that.
So actually what you said, and just leave and the creation of new permanent full-time jobs.
Okay.
We'll just eliminate 50.
so we have a amendment on the table to change that portion of the order. Do we have a second
I'll say.
on that? Okay, great. Can we have a roll call vote, Debbie, for that, please?
Sure. Paul,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Sonia,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes,
and Fred?
Yes.
5 in favor, 0 opposed.
Just to follow, if I could.
Mhm,
So it still says 77 residential units, 6,200 square feet of commercial space, all X.
All correct, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, great. And is there any further discussion?
I think that we should take off the 60 Broad Street, because that's not part of the TIF. That's
That
the
is,
restaurant.
that is in there because it requires an easement. If you remember.
Oh, I
the last-
do,
the
but I
last
don't
meeting.
want that being included in the, so how can we write that so it's not included in the district? Because he's only having the garbage can on the restaurant lot.
In order to be given an access and a right of way, you most likely need to probably include it as an access point, because it's going to be something that the rest of the development is going to need access to. So do we get specific on a part of the
How many square
parcel?
feet of the parcel is?
I think that that's the only,
The easement's part of the district.
the easement would need to be part of the
Yeah.
district based on,
Well,
Or-
just-
or
just
say
saying
only limited to, the requirement under a potential easement or something.
And is that definite? Because, I mean, you've got a list of questions and stuff you have to do for the planning. So are they agreeing to leave that there? Because I know you have to look for your snow removal and all that.
Yeah, it's a condition. If we can't put it on site, then we just have to agree to truck it off site, which we're going to do.
So maybe put that into easement on lot 60.
so easement. How do you want
On 60
easement
Broad Street,
for-
easement only. Because it might not even be there.
Maybe a dash easement?
Well, we're talking about an easement to be created.
Yes, it hasn't been
Right, so it
created
doesn't
yet.
exist
Doesn't
now.
exist.
So I don't
Hasn't
think
been
we can
approved.
really refer to it as if it exists now.
Mhm.
So then we can take it off. Remove it, and if it exists before we do
Well,
vote on it.
That'll make the agreement.
I think we have to have a full real property description as it appears, to adequately define the meets and bounds of that parcel.
Right. So 60 Broad Street's not supposed to be on the district, so how do you do
Well,
that?
that's the characterization that the town has ascribed to that real parcel, real property parcel.
Your concern obviously is that 60 Broad Street is not part of the TIF,
We understand that.
which is not.
Yeah.
It's not.
I
I'm
we
just trying
should
to
just
not,
put it in writing somehow that 60, because otherwise, if it's in writing, then it is.
well, it'll be in writing on Tuesday when you see I can show you the agreement now if you want. I don't know if that's kosher, but.
So ultimately,
No, as long as we have agreement that it's there, because I mean, the residents want to make sure that that's not being, everything's, if it's in writing, then it's law, so they want to make sure.
in the
it's-
agreement, it will be more fully,
They're gonna see it on Tuesday. It's
Defined.
quite literally the
Okay,
parcel
I
from
just wanna
70 to
make sure.
86 Broad Street.
Got that.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with that.
And because the language is a little foggy
Yeah.
on how to word it on here, I don't want to lock us into something that A, hasn't been approved by the town, and B, we're not even there yet. We don't even know how big of an easement it needs to be. I'd like to know the square footage of what the easement's going to be, how much frontage it's going to be. However much they need of that parcel, I'd like more information. I'm sure we
It's a
could probably
dumpster.
put that.
Yeah, it's a dumpster.
But again,
Not all the
we
way
could
out
be,
there, right?
we could be
South
that
end.
specific
It's a
in
lot,
the
most of
agreement.
it's behind the building.
Well, yeah,
Is there any further discussion based on how the order is written as it sits? All right, do I have,
motion to refer to the town council.
do I have a motion?
I will give you motion to refer to the town council.
Second?
You already had the motion.
Okay, okay,
Fred
All in-
made it, and Paul seconded it.
okay, perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion referred. And next on the agenda is our next step section. So Mr. Cormier kind of let in on the fact that the next item that we will likely have is going to be the agreement. That's going to be the next step that we kind of take as a committee. Is there anything going into our next meeting, which we will get on the schedule, that all of you need, whether it's something that you need from Mr. Rulli, Mr. Cormier, any avenue of the town of Bridgewater while we're starting to dig into that agreement? Is there anything you will
Assessor.
need? Okay,
I'd like the assessor to look at the tax increment, the meal tax, and the excise tax. You talk very fast.
Can I add to that same one with the assessor?
Yeah.
We have a look back at the last 20 years with what the town received for taxes on that property as is. Property tax.
And just to level set too, if I could, that it'll be the draft agreement that would go to the state, that would be signed. That's what's gonna be on the agenda. And what as soon as it's on the agenda, it gets referred to you in the town council meeting, hopefully. What I'll provide to this group is exactly that. All of the data that we use for the established assessed value, all of the legacy tax data, every single input that's on this calculator I have in our operating pro forma. So if I can get a copy of this digitally, I can put it in this format.
That's okay, because the residents really asked me to get one from the assessor. so
No,
I'm
that's
just
great, yeah, yeah.
fulfilling what I was asked.
Yeah, of course. I'm just,
I appreciate it.
right after that, this is referred, you'll get a folder. I don't know if Sony, if I should send that to you and you can distribute it,
no,
but
that's
a
great.
full folder of every single piece of data, every assumption that was used, all the financial impacts, and then obviously we can take as many meetings as we want to and bring in whoever we want to talk about.
Perfect. So what I'm hearing is the most pressing person for us to invite to our initial agreement meeting would be the assessor,
Yeah, with
kind
that
of-
information.
to kind of start digging into all of that. So we will, Debbie, once we figure out when that meeting is going to be, we'll get that scheduled so that they can join us.
Just so you know, what you're referring to council has to be advertised. So it's not making August 5th agenda. August 5th agenda is already set. I mean, August 12th. So it's September 2nd agenda and then September 16th for the hearing.
Did the TIF district have to be advertised?
It's my understanding it does.
So it will be on the agenda and then we would refer to advertising, right?
On September 2nd, not August 12th. August 12th agenda is already done.
Oh.
It's already set. And I mean, I can ask, but I don't know if I can fit it on.
No, we want to follow proper procedure, so we'll just have to bump it out. But what my thought would be is, well, do you all think that it's beneficial between now and that advertising session to maybe still have the assessor come and talk to us about it?
Yeah, definitely like the information before we
Yeah.
have it before the town council meeting.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
know, what do you think, Paul? You feel,
Yeah. So I feel we can still proceed like we mentally were going to, and we'll be ahead of the situation and maybe have a better grasp of the numbers once we can really dig into them. So
What is today, Wednesday?
today's Wednesday, yeah.
I mean, she might be able to squeeze it on.
I thought we would have time. but-
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, does anyone else have anything that they would need as far as the next meeting is concerned that would help them as we're getting well versed in the agreement? Okay, great. So our next would be public comment. So if anyone, I'll start with people that are in the room since it's a little bit easier because I can see people's faces versus empty boxes. So if anyone in the room has anything that they would like to say, just remember name and address, please.
Carlton Hunt, Austin Street. My first time I've seen any evidence of a calculator. The town employees need to run the calculator from the data that's presented by the developer, not the developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Wendy, Michael Road, and I will ask the chair to consider going forward if this is posted as a forum of the town council may be in attendance to allow town councils, if they have a question, to be able to ask it in real time. Like my fellow council wanted to ask Mr. Rulli something, and she couldn't do that because he had to go. I also, the biggest question I got during the 2.5 override campaign from my constituents was if you're asking us to pay more in taxes, which they said a resounding no to, 56 to 44%, why are you going to give a developer a TIF for a large amount of money for a lot of years? So I just want that on the record, and I want people to think about that. I'll bring that up again at the council meeting when we have this before us. But I think we're looking for money, not looking to give back money.
Counselor.
Yes, Adeline Ellenberg, 76 Aldrich Road. And this is my first time looking at these various scenarios, the financials. And I just wanted to see that one scenario is equity required to build 48%, the other is 67%. Is that one is with the TIF and one is without the TIF?
These are
And
just
that's how much
these
you're
are
borrowing?
just arbitrary examples.
This was an
This is not-
example. This isn't his
Oh.
information.
Mr.
Okay.
Rulli just wanted us to be able to see that there was a calculator, that a calculator does
That a
exist, that we can
calculator
utilize.
exists. Okay, my mistake, never mind.
Whatever.
I probably would have thought that too.
Well, I'll call it Bob Homer, 65 Grange Park, just to be very clear, that's my intention is not to do, I didn't even know this calculator existed until today. What I was told to do is put together a full operating pro forma, which is what you'll have. Hand it over, plug it into this calculator. Again, like I said from the very beginning, nothing but full transparency out of me. So if this is the document, the tool that we're gonna use, wonderful. You'll have all the inputs that you need, and if you need something else, we're an open book.
Anyone on Zoom wish to make any public comment? You can unmute yourself. I don't know if anyone is able to do the hand raising feature. I don't see anybody raising their hand. I don't know if Debbie sees anything, but.
Janet pressed unlocked herself. Go ahead, Janet.
Hi, Janet Hanson. I don't have the hand, raise your hand feature
You're fine,
still.
Janet.
Hi, Pleasant Street. I still have a lot of questions about allowing this, why it should be allowed. I hear, the information. Would this be, I know this is to do with zoning right now, zoning this to be a district for TIF. Is this going to be just limited to this particular property site? Is there potential for more TIF areas in town? And I still have a question. What happens if the, no offense, Mr. Collier, but what happens if the businesses fail or, things don't go well? What happens? Does that still remain a TIF? That's a question I don't know. What happens if it doesn't work out? Does it remain a district for TIF for whoever wants to go in there afterwards? I just don't think it's financially sound for our town. And, why this particular property and not another property? What gives this property more value than another, other than the fact everybody wants to see something in there? But I'm still concerned of what's going to be going in there. I haven't heard of anything that excites me as a consumer. So I just need clarification as to what happens. And is this just for this property, or are we going to face this again elsewhere? Another developer come in and say, I'd like to try to have my property under TIF, and we'll have to go through, okay, we'll rezone. So those are questions that I have at this moment. Thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else that's joining us via Zoom or in person?
I forgot one thing. I apologize.
You're
I
fine.
just wanted to know just if the TIF is transferable.
I wrote that down as a,
It's renewable.
No, to someone.
No, but I mean, he could renew it. You give him 20 years, he could ask for another.
Yeah, but
It's
I'm
renewed.
asking if someone else came in and it got sold.
Yeah.
It'd be transferable.
No, you made me think about, I
Yeah.
know that it's renewed.
Yeah.
There any other questions?
Just to address one of the comments too, that the way the language is written and how the state likes to see it is up to 5 years to perform what you're committing to. The reason for this ad hoc committee is to hold us accountable to whatever gets put forth. So if we say we're gonna create 20 jobs in the first 5 years and we create 10, you challenge it, we have a cure period. We can't cure it, i.e. we don't get the jobs, you pull the TIF. It's written very plainly in the agreement.
I think they give you a grace period like 3-4 times.
You get up to 5 years.
5
And
years.
then there's a very short cure period if you don't perform.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. When would the agreement be able to be viewed in general?
As soon as it gets on the agenda.
Let me just, Debbie, is the agreement on our August 12th agenda as new business?
What agreement? No,
Okay, so what's going to happen is it's going to take a little time for us to be able to get our hands on it because.
I just sent you a text. I talked to Justin. We can put this on the 12th as a
Okay.
referred advertising, and it can be voted on at 9/2.
Okay,
I don't think his agreement can go on the agenda until this TIF is approved. The district is approved.
correct.
So it
Okay.
could go on the 16th.
Okay,
I just have a question. I thought the agenda on a Wednesday closed out at 10 o'clock in the morning. Normally.
But it's up to your town manager and the president of the council to add something.
At 7 o'clock at night, I don't think
I don't
I've
think-
ever been afforded that opportunity.
I don't even think there's in the rule that's it Pacific says a Pacific time. I think Debbie does it because she needs to, look into it. I've been reading the charter. I haven't seen it.
I, as the chair of this committee, will commit to making sure that this is the one and only time that it happens. And I think the reason why it's important is I think it's very important for all counselors to be able to see an agreement well before the end of September at this point. And that would be where we would be at. So
When would it be voted on then?
this would then be, if it's referred to advertising at our next meeting, it would probably be voted at the beginning of our first September meeting. Because it needs to go to advertising for a period of time.
But we'll be having another meeting with all the finances and stuff like that between, right? Yeah.
Just to be clear, is Debbie's talking about voting on the TIF district creation of the section. So we
Right.
have,
A
as
lot.
long as you want for the
Yeah.
agreement. But I guess what I was told is we can't share a proposed agreement or any of the financials until it's on an agenda and referred to this committee.
So once if it's on our agenda for next Tuesday, then you can start sharing.
Correct.
So,
I'm gonna go to Carlton first. Dr. Hunt.
Carlton again, 2 points. Mr. Rulli was very clear, don't rush to judgment. Take your time. If it takes longer, it's the town's benefit. The other thing is, I was looking at the care termination of conditional compliance in the zone, section 3A, the zoning act. And the number of dwelling units will likely change after the planning board and CPD meet and talk about that and whether they change that number. That number goes down from 30 to 27, but I think it's more like 25. How does that impact this project if the council votes in the long run to change that density?
Thank you. Councilor Ellenberg.
That's the MBTA district, not the CBDR.
I was just questioning about I don't like the idea of voting in the district without seeing the agreement. I just want to see the Bridgewater as protected, that's all. And so I'd like to see the agreement in conjunction with the proposal for us to vote.
I'm not voting on it.
No,
We're
we're,
not voting on it. We're referring it to the council. They're gonna refer it to advertisement. And once it's on our agenda, Mr. Comio said, then we can see the agreement. Am I correct?
That's what I've been told. I don't know.
That's what he's been
Regurgitating
told,
what I've been
so-
told.
Okay,
What
so
exposure
that, so
would we
in other
have?
words, we would get the agenda and the agreement at the same time and would be able to review them ahead of the meeting.
Right. And we're only sending this district to advertisement. We're not voting on this.
I understand, okay? But we will ultimately be voting on it. And the question is, can we see the content of the agreement before we just create a district and we don't know what's ahead of us?
So I just wanna reel back in, because this is public comment period. But to answer your question, they're two separate things in my eyes. Creation of a district is like step one, basement level. You have to have that before you can even start entertaining a possibility of an agreement. We could still, as a council, say no to a TIF agreement. This, honestly, at that point becomes a moot point, because without an agreement to attach to a district, you have nothing to enforce. But that's the step that we have to take before we can actually dig deep into an agreement. Donna has her hand up.
Hi, Donna Jewell, Keith Place, Bridgewater. Could somebody just please clarify exactly what is being referred to advertising? I'm a little confused now.
No problem, Donna. So we are referring the order OFY 25071, an order establishing a tax incremental financing district for 60 to 86 Broad Street. Simply the district itself, not the agreement, not a fine numbers or the fine tuning of what is going to go in the agreement, length of time, anything like that, any capacity, simply the creation of a district.
Okay, so then with Mr. Rulli's suggestion to expand the TIF district to the entire CBDR, has that been dialogued by your committee and determined not to take his suggestion?
That was not part of any of the amendment conversation that we had about this specific order. We changed a little bit of language regarding a few of the line items just to line up with what is likely going to be seen in the agreement so that things are a little bit more transparent and predictable. But no, we did not change the actual district in and of itself at this point in time.
Okay, so if the committee decided to expand the district, you'd have to go back and re-advertise, is that correct?
If we decided, or if it was then brought up at a council meeting to make any type of an amendment before it was advertised, then sure,
Yes.
then have to readdress it. And it would probably be sent back to our committee, maybe even before it was advertised.
Okay, just wondering if it makes sense to have that kind of dialogue before you send something out to advertising and have your committee decide whether this is just going to be a lot specific recommendation or a larger area, just to look at it as a whole. But I understand what you're doing now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's not going to advertise, it's going to the town council.
Town council and we're voting to refer it to advertising.
Merrily, yeah.
Yes. Councilor Hunt.
Thank you. It was really helpful to me to hear the discussion going on with Mrs. Jewell. My suggestion to you, I have no authority in any of this. I think it's really a lot to have this go before the council next Tuesday, and have it voted to be sent for approval to come back to you. I think it needs a little more discussion and figuring out exactly what all these questions lead to. So I would think it'd be good for your committee to perhaps have some way to discuss it at the council meeting, not in order to send it right off, but to discuss what's going on and hear what the rest of the councilors, I won't be there, so, you know, I'll be shutting up about it. But to see what it seems like wants to be done as far as the TIF district and all of that sort of stuff, then to come back, maybe even at the end of the week next week, and vote on it again about whether you're gonna give it to the council to send for, you know.
The council has to accept.
Yeah, to send it back to the council, so the council can send it in, for exception. It feels a little wrong to me right now.
Janet Hanson, Pleasant Street. Can I say one more thing?
Sure, Janet.
I question on the rush to put it on the agenda for next week and have it to be sent to advertisement so soon, because there's a lot of questions here. I don't know how you could even put it to advertising because it's not, there's a lot of questions on the district, and I know we're not looking at the plans of what he plans to put in there. It's first off, making it a district. I don't want to see it go beyond, I don't want to see it at all, as you know, but I don't want to see it going beyond that area. The idea is to not create it to be a huge thing, but I don't see how it could go to advertising yet. And also I think somebody does definitely need to look at what the rules of this town are as far as being allowed to put something on an agenda at this stage of the game for next Tuesday. There, I know there's a limit. I don't have it in front of me either as to when you're allowed to put something on an agenda, but I don't think if you make an exception for this one time you mentioned, why wouldn't somebody want it as an exception for another time? You can't set that type of precedent, but I think there's still a lot of questions before you start putting this on the agenda for next week. You can discuss it, but not go to advertising. I don't think it's at that point. If hopefully you know what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Counselor Ellenberg? Your hand was up.
Well, my hand was up simply to suggest that perhaps this committee could spearhead a presentation to the general council, the council as a whole, since you folks have been digging into this, or what you can report to us to tell us what's what, maybe?
Can I ask something to clarify? So we're sending this to the town council and they're gonna send it to advertisement, which will be in there 14 days.
Mhm.
So then it's gonna come back to us as a public hearing. And we're gonna meet in between to find out, have the assessor, all the taxes and all that. So we'll have all that information. So we won't have, it won't come back until the town council until what? 3 weeks?
September, mid-September.
Yeah. So we're gonna meet in between. We'll answer these
Probably
questions.
twice.
Yeah, have the information and, you know what I mean?
So long as the public is well aware of when the next meetings are, so we can all attend.
Well, I mean, you guys saw it, it was advertised. It's always advertised. Chairperson, always make sure it's open so we can all come.
I just wanted to say one small thing. It costs a lot of money to send it to advertising, so you're gonna pay for it then. If it goes in not perfect and comes back to you and you discuss it at the council and you decide more things need to be changed and you're not gonna accept it as it went to advertising, you're gonna have to resend it to advertising, which is gonna cost more money and more time to get it back to be able to fully approve it. I really think you need to get things smoothed out and know exactly what you want. You don't send to advertising something that's partially done or may perhaps have some things that need to be changed. That's usually the standard rule.
Chase, you're the senior on the council for a lot of years. You have an opinion?
Just with respect to what was just said, the council does always have the prerogative to amend anything that comes back to them. First of all, and it's not unusual for, some might be regrettable, but sometimes it is the case that an advertised measure will come back to the council or amendment and need to be re-advertised. Bottom line is, it's up to what happens with the full council, and they have control. With respect to the agenda, the president of the council has a great deal of authority with respect to control over the agenda. And I suspect that also provides to the town manager the ability to at least suggest modifications subject to the president's approval.
I have one comment.
Of course.
From the public, 25 Ashford Lane. I would only say that just to further explain on Mr. Chase's point there. I think sending it to advertisement is exactly what we do want now, because we want to solicit that feedback from folks and make folks aware that this is what we're working on. And the expectation would be that they read it and bring back to the council their thoughts and their questions, and to clarify so that we can then adjust the order as such. So in my view, I think sending it to advertisement is the right thing to do, because we're soliciting questions and we're educating folks, and we want to hear their feedback in that public hearing so that we could address it. I think trying to get it perfect is the opposite of the point of advertising it in the first place, if we want to hear that feedback and answer those questions.
Yeah, some of the best conversations can happen during a public hearing setting when people participate. You know?
Is the citizen comment still around or?
Citizen comments, we have not left it.
Okay, Terry, 56 Michael Road. I have nothing personal against anybody. I just have a question myself.
Mhm.
So say that, can the TIF be negotiated? In other words, does it have to be all or nothing? So can the years be tweaked? In other words, the general public already is saying no. I personally will be generally affected because I live off 18. So I'm just saying, is the developer going to say, forget it, if the TIF doesn't get passed? Or is there any negotiation to say, okay, we'll give you that and that to make the project go to work? Or is that already been discussed and you're past that?
Well, when it comes to anything pertaining to that, that's more agreement based. And I know we keep saying that, but until we can get into the agreement, figure out all the financials, figure out the backing of said financials, figure out the pros and cons of why we're in that financial place to begin with. We can't say one way or the other whether there would be even a point of negotiation or not. I think getting to that point and getting to a public hearing, having public input in a public forum bigger than this one is very important. And it creates the level of transparency. It also shows that this committee is actively doing work and making sure that when we're given something, we actively are meeting and referring it back because we want public input. We want to get to that public point so we can get to that agreement point. Because if we can't get to that agreement point, a lot of people's questions are going to fall on deaf ears because we need to be able to see it too.
But I just don't understand why it has to be like all or nothing. Can it be, that's the agreement part. Got it, gotcha, now I understand.
Last comment about Horace Shepherd.
Yeah.
Terry, you hit the nail on the head. The whole point of this is to be able to have all of the information on this really nice big table and work together to try to understand what's best for the community. That's
Gotcha,
literally what the whole point of this.
okay.
So, Mark, Wendy, and based on what Jay said earlier about the agenda and the control of the agenda, we got notified by the council clerk that the town manager said it's fine to add it to the agenda. Does not the council president have anything to say about that? Has he been consulted? I think this is a dangerous precedent on the, I've been told a million times since I've been in the council at 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning is the deadline. And I don't think it should be changed. So I'm just saying that for the record. I'm not trying to slow it down. I just do not think we should do that. Otherwise, what's to stop any of us at any time as a council from adding something to the agenda at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock or whatever? I just don't think that should be done.
There are actually a lot of provisions that, you know, are subject to modification, if you think about it. We've been through emergency meetings, for example, on any number of occasions and for different reasons, we have suspended the rules. It's really all part of the process. There are occasionally legitimate reasons for which customary practice would be set aside. Now, the only real statutory requirement that we're held to with respect to the agenda is the publication requirement. 2 business days of publication, public record, right? As to the setting of the agenda, it's an internal council matter.
I'm asking a question if the president of the council was consulted, and I think the answer is no. I think the town manager weighed in, and that's it. So I'm just stating
Well, I don't
what I
want to
feel.
speak in hypotheticals. I think that can also be, that can set a dangerous precedent. I obviously am not texting Council President Loretti at this moment in time to consult with him. I'm presiding over a meeting, so I'm getting the information that I've received. And if it's able to be on the agenda, it's able to be on the agenda. If it's not, I'll circle back with all the parties that be when this meeting is adjourned in the most formal of capacities. I don't think negotiating that in a public meeting is also the best light for the committee as a whole. Is there any other public comment at this time? Okay, so next up would be adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're all well done. Thanks, Debbie.